Poseidon is a mid-solo jungle who deals magical damage. He moves very fast and has a few different playstyles you could do with him. Let me, a Grandmaster Smite 1 player, show you how to play him the best you can. Keep in mind that this is still an alpha, so things are subject to change. If there's a major change to Poseidon, I will remake this guide to cover it for you. Before you start, look at this. Are you subbed? If you aren't, perhaps it's time to change that. It's free, you can always unsub later. Anyway, let's begin. Poseidon's passive Changing Tides relies on hitting basic attacks. Each successful basic attack generates 10% tide. The tide gives you increased movement speed, and your abilities do more damage based on how much tide you have. What are the numbers per tide percent? I don't know, and I'm not doing the math for it. But at max tide, your abilities do 15% increased damage. You also gain 10% movement speed at max tide. Each of your abilities have a tide cost tied to it, meaning you lose tide when you cast them. However, you can still cast those abilities if you have no tide. You also do not lose tide percentage on death. Poseidon's first ability, Tidal Surge, summons a wave in front of him, dealing damage and knocking enemies back. If you use this ability while his second ability is active, you will send 2 more additional waves out, which is why in the background you'll see sometimes I summon 1 wave when casting my 1, and other times I summon 3. If more than 1 wave per cast hits a target, the wave will deal full damage on the first hit, then the rest will deal 50% than the previous wave that was hit. These waves pass through everything. Walls, gods, minions, your crippling student loan debt, everything. It also costs 15% tide. Poseidon's second ability, Trident, is a steroid, which grants Poseidon attack speed, movement speed, and basic attack damage. Numbers on the screen now. As previously stated, casting Tidal Surge will cause 2 more waves to be summoned while this ability is active. If you do basic attack while this ability is active, you fire 2 extra basic attacks on the side, which apply ability damage and trigger ability on hit effects. Each of these basic attacks increase tide on a successful hit on an enemy. Trident is the only ability Poseidon has that costs no tide. Poseidon's third ability, Whirlpool, is a circle, which is in fact a whirlpool. It cripples and vortexes, which deals damage repeatedly to enemies in the area. Since I believe this is the first time I've talked about either of those CCs on this channel, I will briefly explain them. A cripple prevents you from using a movement ability, such as a dash or a leap, while it's applied to you. A vortex slowly pulls you closer to the center of a circle. However, you can still walk and move out of a vortex like the whirlpool. It just makes it more difficult to move. Hades' ultimate has a vortex, but it is much stronger. This ability is your setup tool for your ultimate and a good clear tool. It costs 15% tide. Poseidon's ultimate, release the Kraken! We get it. Summons a Kraken, dealing damages and slowing enemies in an area. It has 2 circles around it, the outer ring and the inner ring. The inner ring is what you want to hit for the most damage, and the CC provides. If an enemy is in the center, when the Kraken comes up, they take increased damage and are stunned and knocked up. This ability costs 20% tide. The outer ring still does damage, but it's much less than if you were to hit the inner ring. As Poseidon, you want to use your movement speed to weave your way in and out of fights, if you need to. Your Kraken is your main kill tool. Use your abilities to set up for each other, like this. Trident, Whirlpool, Kraken, Tidal Surge. If you can, try to get close enough to hit all 3 hits of Tidal Surge to get maximum damage. In the early game, he has so much lane pressure, and you should use it to try to make rotations to help your teammates, steal away jungle camps, or head to objectives early. Be careful though, just because you're fast does not mean you're too fast to catch. You can get caught, and with no in-kit CC immunity or movement ability, it could lead to your death. If you're looking for builds, I'd recommend going to smite2.live. Link will be in the description. It's better than me giving you a build that could be irrelevant or terrible in 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months. You get the point. You see what the top players building, and you could take what you like from there and use it for your own. Other than that, though, I hope this helped. And if it did, please let me know in the comments. And leave a like on the video. Until next time, peace.